Ghana's government's 3-year bond has failed to raise the targeted amount, and it was supposed to have been sold, but failed to raise the required amount. And the Bank of Ghana was looking forward to securing some 630 million Ghana cedis worth of bids from investors, but actually only got 572. However, the bank just took over 502. Well, government will also be paying an interest of 23.4%. And for analysts, the interest rate being paid to investors might be interesting because in just about a month, the cost of the 3-year bond has gone up by 1% from 22 to 23, we're told. Why don't you have the interest of especially investors in taking up a lot of the government bonds?
Ro, I would humbly plead with you before I do that. Let me make this very critical point on the issue that we just left.
I hope it's not going to lead to a reaction.
It will not lead to a reaction. I subscribe to the assertion that these are very critical moments and we should watch our comments very well. That is why I'm a bit worried about the angle Kamal has taken as a party national executive. You know, it deepens the stretch. It deepens the stretch because I mean we should just be very, very fair to the issue. I have heard the member of parliament Kennedy Agyapong also make some allegations and attacks and on other party leaders, and I think that is unfair. The MPP must try to abstain from those allegations. Please, I beg you, allow me. You abstain from those comments, abstain from those analogies,
also abstain from your mischievous comments that you make. Come on,
Peter, just forget about this.
The viewers
talk about bombs.
The
bonds that you have
viewers are our witnesses. I have given my advice.
Okay.
You can't choose to take it or not. We would move on. And that is why the MPP is in crisis. Now the bonds.
Who told you NDC is not in crisis?
Now the bonds. Ro, I think that it was expected. This was not an euro bond. This is a local bond. And it is expected that looking at the current conditions, for people to subscribe to bonds, they look at a lot of market information. Now, the market information that really drives, people raising bonds, it's the debt sustainability levels of the country, and the fact that the fact of how the economic figures are looking. Now, if you look at the challenge that we have had with our energy crisis, it has had a toll on every single thing, and it has affected most of our numbers. If you look at the fact that, because of some international shocks, oil prices and all that, we have had some rippling effect on our economic figures. It was expected that anybody who is doing a careful analysis of the markets will not, rush for such a bond. And again, we should also appreciate that if you look at the interest rate that we are giving and the market interest rates, and the fact that businesses in Ghana will need to go to the same market to raise, financing, it was necessary that we make it that we make the interest rate a bit, congenial, so that even though we are seeking to raise money from the same market where the investors will raise the market, so raise their investments, we don't really cause what we call the crowding out, so that we don't crowd out businesses. You understand? So that is why the interest rates over the years just went up by 1%, because we didn't want to create the impression and raise the interest rates so that we get all the the market money into government bonds. Because we, as part of strategy, we are trying to even cut down on local borrowing and all that. So it is not strange. It was expected. And if you look at even the bids that came in, they are about 572, but we took only 502. You understand? So there is a careful strategy not to overborrow on the local market. So then when you are doing that, you have to calculate your interest rate at a level where the monies will not rush to your end and virtually crowd out private businesses. You understand? So that is basically the strategy. I don't think it is out of place at all. It is not surprising that we have had it. Meanwhile, before, let me just say this.
I hope it's not.
No. Meanwhile, for the past 2 years or the past 6 years, every single bond that we have raised, both on the local market and the international market, has been oversubscribed. So it is not surprising that we are having this challenge, especially at this time when the energy crisis is holding our necks.
Very interesting. I'm going to have a very short delivery on this matter. How much do we have as our public debt as we sit now? Close to 81 billion Ghana cedis.
It's $22 million.
Oh, no, I'm talking, please, Ghana cedis. I didn't mention dollars.
No,
If you want to go to
let's do the
US,
simple calculation. And
I'm saying that
You mean
the
billion
debt
dollars?
stock
Yeah.
is about
$22
81 billion Ghana cedis now as we speak.
because most of
And
our
I
debts
tell
we
you,
pay in
so
dollars,
please-
so it's better to
Oh,
work
what are
with
you
the
talking
dollar
about?
because we pay our debts in dollars. You understand?
Peter,
So let's work with the
Why
dollar.
are you heckling?
I never said a single word.
I don't
I
like
never
your
uttered a
posture
word.
today,
Well,
Peter.
well,
Why?
it's bad.
Why are you doing that?
No,
Now,
I'm
if
not
you
heckling
owe-
today. I've not been.
If you owe that much, domestically and of course externally, okay, and is that bad? It's approaching a threshold where we will say we've gone epic. Then you come to say I'm
But
floating.
somewhere
Wait a
around
minute.
70, 71.
Absolutely. You float bonds and expect investors to have confidence in you. They will not. It's simple, fundamental. Investors will not have confidence in you.
So he shouldn't have been worrying his head
Absolutely,
about it.
because your credit rating itself is poor. You get what I mean? So for me, I think that the government's ineptness is just so high in terms of fiscal policy, in terms of fiscal management. And I believe that is what has amounted to this, no show in bonds floating. Perfect. And we don't need a record scientist to come and tell us that these people are highly inept, highly incompetent. They have actually cut into shreds our economy, and we are not actually having hope in them again.
It's
So
a-
it's a fact.
Yeah,
You
as a
can
government-
dress it and whatever,
Peter,
say whatever
Peter,
you want
as
to
a
say.
government-
But the fact is that you have failed completely.
Peter, as a government,
Investors don't even have confidence in
as a
you
government,
as a government.
as a government, are you worried about the debt to GDP ratio?
It's bad.
Oh well,
That's like-
every
bad.
government should be worried.
So why should they have confidence
because,
in you?
Because please,
You're heckling.
because
I'm
as
not
it
heckling,
stands,
I'm
as it
avoiding-
stands, we are hovering around 65% debt to GDP,
Which is sad.
But what really has been the cause of this challenge is that we inherited about
What do you
$8.5 billion of debts when we came into power in 2009.
And added how much to it?
And please, I think you said you were a gentleman.
And added how much?
I just a few minutes ago you said you were a gentleman.
No, I've
Thought
decided
you
to
just
become
be fair
you
to me.
now. I
You
was
see,
a gentleman. I've decided to
and
become you now.
8.5 billion. If you are even looking at an average interest rate of about 10% for 6 years annually, you are going to be hovering around $13 billion and so on and so forth, 14 billion. Now, the debt that was left, the 8.5 billion, was after we had a debt forgiveness of about 4.5 billion. You understand? So then it means that really, if you look at the period under consideration,
Peter.
we have not done reckless borrowing.
What?
We have just
Interesting.
please. We have not done any reckless borrowing at all.
Come on.
Almost all the borrowings that we have done, which may range up to about just a little about 7 billion to 6 billion, we can show concrete works for it. The Atuabo gas alone, for God's sake, the Atuabo gas alone is $1 billion.
Interesting.
You understand? And the $1 billion forms about 20% of what we have borrowed within this period. You understand? What we are saying is that we want to deduce a new method of handling our debts so that it will make our books look good.
Roland,
and that is what we call the refinancing.
Let's be truthful. And
What is this? What is this?
Well, you can't
What
have
kind
the
of
whole- you can't have the-
ruthless behavior is
You
this?
can't have the whole day.
You see, so we have to devise means of managing our debt, so that we can
Wrap up for me, sir.
so that when we raise such bonds, so that when we look at our figures will look good. Now, the key strategy is refinancing. What the refinancing does is that, if you have a bond that matures maybe in 10 years, or maybe a bond that matures next year, it was a 10-year bond, but it matures next year. What you do with the refinancing is that you are able to raise money from the market, then you shift the maturity period to further to maybe the next 10 years. You understand? Then you are able to meet the maturity period that comes next year. Then you would have a very a comfortable fiscal space to operate, and that is what we are doing now. The bond that was issued in 2007 by the NPP, the 750 million bond, which was used to pay salaries, you understand, we had to refinance that bond because it will be maturing in 2017. And efforts to refinance that bond means that we have to go to the market and raise the money come and
Why you speak to the issue,
refinance
especially
that
when we
amount.
have gone to the IMF and we know that. Well, I even have the documents here. I've been reading it consistently over time. We're supposed to do rationalization for public sector agencies and make sure that we spend within what we tend to raise as far as revenue is concerned, and also limit borrowing. Are we taking the right steps?
Roland, before I come there, let me punch holes into what he just said. In fact, he's just spewed out what, with all respect to him, or the greatest respect to you, lies. Did I hear him say that they've only borrowed $7.5 billion since they came into office? That is factually incorrect, and that's a big lie. You have told us. Wait a minute. You just sat here and told us that the debt stock is about $22 billion. Let's even use your figures, which is not true anyway. But it's about 27 billion.
It's $22 billion.
Wait a minute. Let me use your figures and prove you wrong.
Just last 3 days.
His own figures.
Why are you getting your figures?
Deducting 8.5 billion from it, which he claims they inherited, from the 22 billion, how much billions dollars would we have? We are going to have close to about, say, 14 billion. So is the 7.5 billion correct?
No, I did an analogy including interest.
Don't do this.
I did an analogy and I included interest rates.
Listen,
bro, you must correct it.
Correct. You must correct. You made a mistake. It's not true.
That's not what I said.
Look, I'm saying that what these people are doing, if you are not careful, they are very crafty, kind of breeds. So if you are not careful,
I mean that is totally unacceptable.
It's not.
Bro, you are not going to allow that.
They are very crafty kind of breeds.
What did he say wrong?
How can you say that we are?
Oh, you are crafty kind of breeds. That's what I just said.
What kind of breeds?
You don't understand the adjectives.
That's okay. Let him
They are
learn.
a very crafty kind of people, if you want me to say that. You see, and when they are speaking to you and you don't actually take your time to listen to them, you wouldn't even know that at least a lie is being embellished to look like the truth. That is NDC for you. You just sit here and tell us that 22 billion is the debt stock, and that you inherited $22 billion. Minus that from the 22 billion. Again, you are saying that the debt stock is 7.5 billion.
No, you are not making any point.
Excuse me, I'm making a point, and that's the point. I'm just trying to say.
Now we've gone to the IMF, and I asked a question.
Now to the IMF.
I'm just shocked.
What took us to IMF? They claim there was a century, there was some homegrown policies actually mapped out and all that. You see, it is when you are in difficulty that you take your bull somewhere and say, assist me. So we go to IMF because we're in difficulty. Okay? Now IMF, when you come to them and they say, okay, you are in difficulty, we're going to help you. Conditionalities. Now that's where rationalization and other issues that you're talking about will come in. These are our conditions. You have been reckless in the past. You have been this in the past. You have been that in the past. Now we are not going to allow you. Before we put in our money, these are the measures. What are your policies? Then we'll look at it. So clearly, it is because of their own incompetence, because of their gross mismanagement of the economy that got us to go to IMF, and now we are going to be affected in one way by the conditions.
I think the beautiful thing about economics is that they are figures, and there are facts that you can run. Please, there are facts that you can run away from. Really, what has been the issue with IMF programs across the world? As a student of economics, you would have to read a lot of agreements. You have to study IMF as an institution. And when you look at every single agreement with any country at all, one thing that they never draw out is net freeze on public employment. And it's cuts across countries.
It's because they want to cut costs.
Now, yes, it's because you want to cut costs, and they
limit your spending.
Yes, they want to control spending. So if you want to control spending, you have to control government expenditure. And one of the key things on government expenditure is recurrent expenditure in terms of wages. You understand? So if you look at the agreement we had with IMF under President Kufuor, the same clause was in there.
It's not unusual.
It's not unusual at all. Really, what it means this time around, and perhaps maybe the reason why they give specifications, they give direct specifications to this one, is that one, we have had problem with our wage bill already. We have discussed that extensively, civil society and so on. Everybody has made a contribution. We went to Senchi, we spoke about it. Out of Senchi, no,
the CD cannot be arrested.
Come on, you are not being a gentleman. You are not being a gentleman.
Inflation keeps
but I will continue.
These are all indicators that point to the fact that the economy
you are making the program round.
So what you are
making the program very round.
We end the show for the morning. And I guess for the morning, Kamaldeen Abdullahi is the national Nasarawa coordinator of the MPP, and also Peter Otokuno is the deputy chief executive for the National Youth Authority. And gentlemen, thanks for joining me this morning. You've been truly good gentlemen this morning. Please carry this behavior to the next. And that means for the show. Join us same time Monday. Bye bye.